I do really like the theory that the Gemma we've seen isn't the living Gemma, that she is maybe someone who, like, you put her thoughts and experiences into her just to evoke a reaction from Mark so that he can complete Cold Harbor.
There is something going on with Cobell there, and I think the answer is just going to be some complicated history that we'll get some context on next episode. I think it's too soon to say whether she's an absolute villain or absolute redemptive villain who's a hero figure now.
Welcome back to the break room. We got 2 words for you. Devour feculence. That's right, it's time to discuss episode 9 of Severance season 2, The After Hours. I'm John Costa, and joining me to answer all of your questions, he's slowly eating an egg, a hard-boiled egg with a fork and knife. It's Erik Voss.
I will break this down monosyllabically. This episode was a Twilight Zone reference that we will explain in a few minutes.
She is reeking of ingratitude. It's Gina Ippolito.
Give me all that ingratitude in my face, and the eggs, and the shit.
And
I'm horrified. It is interesting to me. It seems to me even the elites, even the rich Eagan family is feeling the price of eggs. Helena Eagan, only 1 hard-boiled egg.
She wasted it, though.
a sliver of a bite.
Sliver of a sliver.
She wasted it.
Was it even Helena Eagan? We'll get into that at a certain point in the show. Erik has some details about that. Okay. So let's start off with this question, right? It's penultimate episode. If you're a fan of the Severance podcast, Adam Scott and Ben Stiller wouldn't stop saying penultimate. It was very funny. Setting up the finale of season 2. What is this finale going to look like? Obviously, season 1's finale was kind of a bonkers finale. This is setting up for maybe a little bit more personal of a finale rather than the, like, you know, public Lumon-esque finale that we got in season 1. What do you think? What do you think you have expectations for this finale, considering where all the characters sort of left off in this episode?
I think we, the one big thing I expect them to answer is what's going on with Gemma and what happened in the car crash. I don't know if we'll see exactly what Cold Harbor is, but I feel like that is the second thing that I feel like they might connect the dots on, just because they mentioned it so much this season. They're going to pay off a bit of Cold Harbor. I have seen either on my TikTok or my Instagram, Mark Geller has been credited every time any kind of incarnation of Keir Eagan shows up in any photographic form. And this is just an actor, just has a very interesting look to him. I have a hunch, and I have not seen, we get screeners a couple days in advance, but we haven't seen the finale episode yet. I just have a hunch that we're going to start with some kind of flashback that shows the moment Keir and Imogen met and what he wanted the company of Lumon to be. So we might get some deep flashback back to the 1860s of what Keir Eagan actually was like. And I don't think it'll answer everything, but it will tease like what the modern company of Lumon Industries has now been trying to do as part of that legacy.
I love that. I think that this episode set up when Cobell told Mark, you have to call Milchick, otherwise they won't let you back in the building. I think this is setting it up for him to go to work, I think, and try and rescue Gemma. I think the fact that Helly was memorizing that map and Mark is talking to Cobell about going back in and getting Gemma out, I think that it's all headed to the elevator. We're going to get the elevator reveal. They're going to go down in the elevator. Something is going to happen. Maybe they will be severed again as they descend in that elevator.
Do you think that the story of Dylan and Irving are maybe done for season 2? Do you think that this was and we're going to just focus on some Lumon stuff? You know, Irving ends up on this train. We don't know what his destination is. We don't know if people will be waiting for him there. We'll get into that a little bit later as well. Dylan obviously had this like heartbreaking proposal moment, and his Audi has sort of implied that that's going to be it for him at Lumon. Do you think that that's the end of their stories for this season, and we're just going to be focused on Mark, Gemma, Helena,
there's
Helly?
a lot still to answer. I think Irving's story is done for this season. I think him getting on that train, I don't know if we'll see him again. I do think that this showdown is going to be Mark, Cobell, Gemma, Helly centered. So I think that would be most of the finale.
It is worth pointing out it's an hour and 16-minute finale episode. So it's
15.
an hour and 15 minutes. I heard a different story.
I got it right in front of me.
It's a long finale.
You gotta
It's a
watch
long
that
finale.
30-second
So
silo.
It's going to be 1 hour,
commercial.
15 minutes, and 31 seconds.
Oh, how do you round?
They've rounded down. I think there's room for a lot
enough.
there. And I think you're right. I think their stories are generally done, but not for this series. I think,
Right. Oh, right.
I think now you have these characters, you might not see them on the MDR floor again in that cubicle. I mean, from the moment they switched it to a 3-person, whatever that is, tri-station, I think now you have an opportunity to explore the world of this show beyond the boundaries of Kier PE, and you can see what other campuses look like. Maybe we do see Eustace Huang go into Svalbard. We can see other campuses that they go to, just like the outside world. That's what I hope they explore with those characters in season 3. I don't know if I don't think you can have the show without Zach Cherry or John Turturro.
I agree. I think that they
Yeah.
are so fundamental, and I think that they've set up really interesting futures for both of those characters. So I think that they're definitely going to come back. But I wonder if we'll take a pause from them for this finale episode. Okay, now that we've done a little tease of what our discussion is going to be today, we do have some boxes still to open. We have 3 more. There is still an episode of Severance left, so we're going to open 2 of the 3 boxes today. We're going to save 1 box for the finale. I want you guys... Off mic, sorry. I want you guys to choose your boxes. We're going to save the one labeled Auditory Pleasure for Organized Dance Experience.
It does seem the
finale.
most fun.
So if you guys want to pull...
I'm gonna go protective, a Kier package protective shell. If I can get this
A
actually.
reminder, I did glue these in.
Yeah, John's fucking with it. Got it. Kier package
And
protective shell.
I'm just for no reason at all gonna
Eric?
move this one.
I swear to God.
So that goes there. This will go. This will go here.
Cut this off. Eric, that's me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Touching me.
And I guess I'll open this one, but it looks better now. I fixed it.
Is it an AirPods case, or did they actually send us AirPods? I guess it's Apple.
It's just it's a little lanyard with INI written on it.
There have to be AirPods in here, right? Oh no, there are not.
Why would they-
Apple send us AirPods?
So it's an AirPods case.
Yes, here
I
is
see.
a pair of here are some
AirPods case,
AirPods.
but this one says INI on it, and it's got a little lanyard.
Fun.
My
A little
box says soy scented. It seems like it's a soy scented candle.
What is the scent of soy? Do you need a scissor?
No, I bet it's whatever Gemma's office smelled like in season 1 because she had that candle.
Plants.
Oh, yeah, there's a sticker on it, and I bite my fingernails out of one of my nervous tics, so I don't really have an ability to open things like this. But a lot of
You got
packaging.
it. You did it.
Yeah, very economical
What?
for our planet there, Apple. But look at that, a soy scented candle. Your Audi enjoys scented candles. One of the
Oh.
things Miss Casey says.
Let's
smells
smell
very
Give it a
it.
nice.
scent. Give it a scent.
It's ether scented.
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite.
Oh.
Get in on that.
Oh, that's quite pleasant.
That
Yeah,
is
it's
pleasant.
very nice. Very, very nice.
That's what Miss Casey
I just had to dig
firewood.
Apple. This is recyclable, so I'm not.
For those at home, firewood musk vanilla bean.
Oh,
Hand poured in Canada, specifically in Toronto. Is that a clue?
that is a clue.
Is that a clue?
And it did say that was musk one of the ingredients?
Musk was one of the ingredients. This is
But
a Doge candle?
What from musk?
I think once you burn it down, there's a little Montauk monster under the soy.
Elon Musk does look like the Montauk Monster.
Yeah.
He didn't exist in our world until he washed up on the shores of New York.
He's really made a
Island.
name for himself, that Montauk monster.
Let's get into the rest of the show properly.
Wait.
Shall we?
Do we have one more thing to say in
Where we're
this section?
saving it.
Oh, this is exciting news. It took us only 8 weeks. We finally have Severance merch for. If you order it now, I actually don't know if it will arrive in time for the finale.
Oh.
But you could be. This is sort of our Ortbo clothing line. If you don't want to wear a suit and tie to work, but you have to represent Lumon outside of the office,
Love it.
grab an MDR Lumon tee. so that you can do any macro data refining outside of the office.
Guys, I'm going to the day after the finale, I'm going to an event with every single actor from Severance.
Okay, so why are you bragging?
Moderated by Quinta Brunson, because I guess she's a big Severance fan.
What did we learn about Lumon this week? We learned something truly disturbing about Jame Eagan. We get this moment of, we're sort of skipping to the back of the episode here. We get this moment where they're driving to the pregnancy sort of retreat center, and Cobell is trying to get past security. She knows all the lingo. She knows all the right words to say, right? Which is something I love in television, where it's like, oh, I'm an expert at being able to get through this.
Yeah,
but
she knows.
Refers to Devin in the passenger seat. First of all, I love that Cobell threw Mark in the trunk as she was thrown in the trunk last episode.
Yeah.
She was like, I know this trick. She refers to Devin as one of James with an apostrophe.
Yeah.
Not like the name Jame.
One of James' girls.
One of James' girls, right? Which is, what is the implication there? Because you could take that in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, he's
You could
knocking
take
everyone
that-
up, I think.
That is the one that I think is the clearest. But like, what happens to these women? What happens to the children that these women birth? Obviously, this is something that has happened frequently. Who are the women that Jame is impregnating?
One of them is
questions.
Grimes, I think.
Could one of them be Mark Scout? Could one of them be Ms Huang? I think a lot of Lumon families are the progeny of Jame Eagan. Like, they are a cult, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think he wanted to have his Epstein Island, He wanted to have his weird colony.
He wanted to spread his seed?
Yeah, I think it's really messed up, and it really is unsettling. There was a moment in season 1 where Natalie was on the news and was being grilled by a reporter, and he said, like, what of that company that went severed and then had a woman get pregnant 1 month in?
Oh.
Like, I feel like they have, like, a protocol for, like, women who get pregnant while severed, and where they bring them to this, what's it called? The Damona birthing retreat? I think there's, like, they have a place for this.
You
and
think
that's what
that,
this is.
right, like they built this center purpose-built for this problem that they needed to solve, which is its own sort of like disgusting situation.
It does seem like they build everything in answer to their own needs. It's not they're not looking out for the greater good. They're not like, oh, this will be a delightful place for women to give birth. They're like, this dude can't keep his dick in his pants. We better build a place.
We want to take a second to thank one of our sponsors today, Mando. Spring is here, and if you want to smell like a fresh spring breeze instead of a stagnant puddle of melted plow pile, yes, that's right, a stagnant puddle of melted plow pile. Try saying that 5 times fast. Mando's got you covered. Mando's whole body deodorant comes in 3 forms: invisible spray, solid stick, and invisible cream. It's clinically proven 72-hour odor control, so it's perfect for long days at the office and long days at the park. Brandon, you wore Mando to the park recently?
That's right. I recently spent over 10 hours at Disneyland theme park, and I was wearing Mando. I put it on in the morning. I didn't even have to think about it all day. End of the day, I'm still smelling great.
Yeah, that's true.
It works.
Oh my God. I mean, Mando stops odor before it starts, and it's safe to use on your entire body, Pate's package feet, and everywhere in between. Mando comes in 4 cologne quality scents: bourbon leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, Clover Woods. I like the bourbon leather myself. Brandon, do you have a favorite?
Mount Fuji's great. It smells
Yeah?
great. I smelled great at the end of the day. I was very impressed with myself.
Yeah,
I may never shower again.
It truly is impressive how long it lasts. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for our listeners and audience viewers, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code BREAKROOM at shopmando.com, shopmando.com. Support our show, let them know we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
There's a kind of a coded exchange that Harmony exchanges with the gate guard that I go into in the breakdown, but she's like, Miss Marsha White, 9th floor specialties department, I'm looking for a gold thimble. And this episode's called The After Hours. That is also the title of a 1960 episode of The Twilight Zone, where literally a woman goes to a department store looking for a thimble. They send her to the 9th floor.
The mannequin floor, right?
The mannequin floor.
Yep.
And
I know this episode well.
Yeah, it's a creepy ass episode. She gets a golden thimble, returns it the next day. They're like, there is no 9th floor. And she sneaks in there, and it's like a mannequin floor where all these mannequins have like, and she finds out she is a mannequin.
Yeah, and they let them go out into the world for a few days, but then sometimes they forget who they are. And then they have to be brought back, and they have to like retell her like, hey, you're a mannequin. You were only allowed to go out for like 2 days, but then you forgot to come back. We got to send another mannequin out into the world. You got to come back.
So it sounds like that might be what Gemma is, right? Gemma could have, maybe she was living and then they made a mannequin version of her. Maybe she was always a mannequin. It sounds, either that's just like a wink to that episode that Dan Erickson loves, or that could be everything that is happening on this show. Maybe Helena is also an artificial person in that same way. That's just released into the world to learn things about humanity that they can bottle in macrodata refinement and plug into some descendant of Keir Eagan in some way. I don't know. But that exchange was absolutely a reference to the Twilight Zone. Whether or not that tells us, I guess it's a roadmap of everything Lumon is doing, we'll see next week.
Well, and so I want to ask a question based on that kind of thought, right? Is in my opinion, when Mark sort of arrives to the 9th floor, we get this really, in my opinion, menacing shot of Cobell sort of standing there in front of the fireplace that's sort of roaring. I'm glad we pulled this image. It is like, that's a villain shot, right?
Yeah, yes.
And is that a villain shot because Cobell continues to be a villain on the show? Or is this a villain shot because Mark's innie sees her as a villain, or like, what's going on here? Why would you shoot this in such a way, that is like a little menacing? We also get
pick a different place to stand,
right?
lady.
Sit down. Good God. We also get we get a reaction shot of Cobell when Mark says the last thing I said to Devin was she's alive, and that look like Cobell almost seems startled in that moment, or surprised. To me, was the read that I got on her face. Why would that be the case? She was there. So I don't know. What did you take from Cobell in this episode, specifically at the end there? Am I reading too much into this? Do you guys think? What's the vibe you guys got?
I mean, I think she definitely looks. It was a very threatening way to stand, like backlit by a fire. Yeah. Is a very threatening thing, especially because she knew any Mark was going to be disoriented, and she chose the weirdest. Like, she was like, "Oh, hey, you're super disoriented." I do really like the theory that the Gemma we've seen isn't the living Gemma, that she is maybe someone who, like, you put her thoughts and experiences into her, and her memories just to evoke a reaction from Mark so that he can complete Cold Harbor. In which case, I think Cobell's look could be like, I mean, she's not really alive, dog. Like, she's a mannequin.
Yeah, I think, like, there is something going on with Cobell there. And I think the answer is just going to be some complicated history that we'll get some context on next episode. I think it's too soon to say whether she's an absolute villain or absolute redemptive villain who's a hero figure now. But I do think something bad happened in this room and in rooms like this in the different cottages. Isn't it weird if it's a birthing retreat? Why would you make a woman who's in labor go upstairs? Like, ground floor, right. Ramps. Do not make them ascend stairs.
We didn't see any medical equipment either in any of the shots here. I don't know if that's because the retreat has, rooms that people can stay in when either postpartum or otherwise, and there's, a hospital wing somewhere. But you're right, like, it is weird that everything was covered in wood, evoking like these, I recently went to a wedding in New York City that like the bride's family came from a lot of money, and everything was like covered in wood, and it was like this boys club, and you couldn't get in unless you were wearing a suit, and all this kind of like all these kinds of like strange things, very evocative of that kind of like status.
Yeah.
But you're no no medical anything, right?
Also, that big of a hearth on the second floor of a cabin is odd.
Sure, yeah.
I understand there's a lot of multi-story buildings that have fireplaces on the upper, but normally the fireplaces are much smaller and just designed to heat a bed chamber room. This is a roaring, huge fireplace on the second floor, and I don't know if we saw a fireplace on the ground floor. And that's just weird design in a cabin. You just don't normally see that because heat rises normally have the largest fireplace on the ground floor. So just, it's a weird design of a room. I understand it's a set, but just like for Lumon to have designed this birthing cabin that way, there's definitely a female. I think there's two statues flanking it, and Cobell's blocking one of them, but you can see a female figure that's on the other side of her. I got vibes of Handmaid's Tale. We talked about that last week, right? Like the ritual of giving birth, the ritual of conception. There's something weird about like the delivery and fertility process.
Maybe they're gonna turn these people's babies into little baby White Walkers, right? Like maybe there's that they take them into the woods and they're like, now you're a little blue baby.
We do see a little baby Kier Eagan in the opening credits that has not paid off yet. Most things in the opening credits have kind of paid off. I don't know if you would consider the Gemma Helena or Gemma Helly switch at the end of the exports hallway to have paid off yet. Obviously, we do see them flicking back and forth in certain episodes, but not specifically there.
Yeah, I think the fact that Helly wants to get there.
Yeah.
We're going to see Helly get to that elevator.
Yes.
And we're going to see Helly in that elevator by the end of the season. And I think some of those rooms on Gemma's floor, Helena Eagan has also got some other identity that's going in and out of those rooms. That identity could be the part of Kier that they're trying to resurrect in her brain.
Do you think that has anything to do with Helly and Mark's connection, romantically or otherwise?
I think that's been like artificially pursued by Helena Eagan, and that like Helena Eagan, like she sees that Mark is a romantic and she has some romantic connection to him and is trying to get in there to like, I think the final step of this is Cold Harbor, whatever it is, and she's trying to get in on whatever that Cold Harbor spiritual connection is so that like she can gobble up whatever the benefit of that macrodata refinement is.
Yeah, I think also like just that if his love and his grief is so powerful for his wife, I think that would be appealing to someone who was raised in this society where like what you want and yourself is not important. I think that would be appealing to a woman like Helena Eagan, who, you know, was raised in a cult and probably doesn't really understand love even from her father. And she's just like, damn, this dude loves so hard that he's gonna awaken his zombie wife and then she's gonna chomp all your brains.
True love is still getting together with a zombie. Evan, do we have a chat question?
Yeah, we have a question about the birthing cabins, I think. Sarah has joined asking, do you think the birthing cabin was built for Jame first, and then Gabby, the senator's wife from season 1, decided to get severed for her births because it already existed? I think it's a fun kind of thing, right? Like, when did they go public with this? What was, who was it really made for first?
Yeah. It seems like it's a thing because we know that these sort of high-end, very wealthy, very influential people are involved in some way in maybe they're investors or whatever it is. I do think it's sort of like a platinum perk. Like they're like, hey, once you donate $1 billion to Lumon, you can use our birthing cabins. They're very delightful. But also just the fact that Devin was there means that there's like a lower tier, right? Like it's like, oh, we can't afford the $1 billion donation, but I still want my sweet, sweet birthing cabin.
Yeah, this wasn't the birthing cabin that Gabby Arteta was in, right? Like that, the senator's wife. Didn't that have these big windows? It was like kind of a nicer.
I think these are all different cabins, but in the same area because Devin was the one who had the idea of like, hey, we could go to those birthing cabins, maybe.
And it's
like
possible
you stay at a luxury resort and there's like the tree house or the cliffside or whatever luxury resort. If a sponsor wants to send me to the cliffside, please shoot us an email.
Or the porn rental.
Yeah, well, that one I'm already going to.
It's possible that like certain cabins have the severance procedure activated, right? When if you walk in, you will like be whatever. Mark, like imagine they were booked in the wrong one and Mark became a severed, his innie in one of the cabins.
I think that's important to note, right? We've been asking the question like how reintegrated is Mark and all this kind of stuff. Clearly the answer is not very much. They needed to go to this place to be able to talk to innie Mark. That was their plan. We need to talk to the innie.
Yeah.
So we got to go somewhere where we can talk to the innie.
And it
Right.
feels like Cobell maybe is like part of the interest of being along for the ride here is like, well, what does reintegration mean when we can still switch the dominant personality or dominant being from innie to outie with the severance like wall or blocker, you know?
Yeah, he's not fully either. He's not fully both of them.
Yes,
he's
exactly.
mostly outie Mark still.
And what will that mean when your two personalities come together? Like
Yeah.
she's going to witness it all, maybe in real time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking a moment for yourself to relax and unwind should be part of everybody's routine. Whether that means chilling out with a favorite movie on a weeknight or having a lazy Sunday. Sometimes it's easier to unwind if you have a little help, and that's what Via is for. Via is dedicated to harnessing the natural benefits of hemp to create high-quality wellness products. Whether you're looking to improve your sleep, focus, recovery, add a little pep to your step, or just get high, Via has something for you. With products ranging from 0 to 100 milligrams of THC, Via gives you the power to blaze your own trail. Via is well renowned for their award-winning THC and THC-free gummies and vapes, THCA flower, soothing topicals, and calming drops, all crafted with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independently owned American farms. And the best part? Via legally ships to nearly all states in the United States in discreet packaging directly to your door with a worry-free guarantee, no medical card required. Personally, I've really been enjoying the 5 milligram Dream Gummies. They help me fall asleep and I get a good sleep. Not that kind of dopey knockout sleep you might get from like a sleeping pill or something like that. It's way better, it feels great, and I feel better in the morning. So if you're 21 or over, check out our link to Via's website in the description below and use code BREAKROOM for 15% off. And if you're new to Via, get a free gift of your choice. Thank you, Via, for sponsoring our episode.
Yeah.
One of the other things we learned about Lumon this week is they have fixers. It's called goons in this episode. I think it was Bert who was like, "Don't call them goons."
Yeah, you're like, hey, we don't use that word around here, man.
At the beginning of the episode, Helena, or possibly Helly, says to Jame something along the lines of like, "Yeah, we're gonna, Mr. Bailiff is gonna be taken care of," or something like that, right? And that's Irving B. So Bert gets to him first. We don't know if Bert is the plan that Lumon has to take care of Mr. Bailiff.
Yeah.
Or if he's truly, sincerely trying to get him out of there because he's worried about his safety. Let's talk about this a little bit, right? Bert gets Irv a ticket for a beautiful train. That's not Amtrak. Gorgeous train with really nice looking seats. I wish I was on that train right now. What's the deal? Is Bert being sincere here? Is he still in Lumon's back pocket and this is a plan, and wherever Irving gets off, Drummond is 2 train cars
there.
behind and like shoots him in the back of the head?
I thought it seemed like he was being sincere. I think that him genuinely fessing up and saying I got severed because I liked the idea that there was a more innocent me. I think I think outie Bert is much like Helena Eagan, intrigued by this love that his more innocent self has, and this is his way of saving a little piece of it out there. I think he probably was supposed to drive him somewhere, and Drummond was gonna pull the old Hector Ayala on him, and he was like, I'm not gonna drive you there. I'm gonna put you on a train. I'm gonna get in some serious trouble for this. They're gonna put me in that room and make me repeat weird phrases for 9 hours, but it's worth it because my innocent little innie still has his love.
Yeah, I got the vibes of Sopranos long-term parking from that.
Yeah,
if you know
yeah.
Sopranos, you know what long-term parking means. There was like the way he and Radar were looking out the window, and it was just like, where are you driving me? I think like Bert was hinting at something that like the way it's kind of like how Lumon justifies paying these people on budget line items. They're drivers. Like, what does a driver mean? Right. I saw a connection with Harmony's innate fear at seeing the driver, and that's what spooked her to get out of it. There's something about these drivers are their enforcers. These drivers are their goons. Like, you put a driver on it, and like there's something about these drivers that I just am obsessed with seeing. Like, what does it mean to be a driver, to ferry someone, to get someone from A to B? It's like Karen, the ferryman on the River Styx, right? Like, you have this sacred function of like doing the dirty work, of making sure that they get to their destination. That train station that they shot in Utica, beautiful train station, inside and out. something weird is happening there. Everyone is dressed as if they're extras in Mad Men. Like, no one is wearing contemporary clothes that you see people.
Even the
in
ticketing, right, is
yeah,
very
the
old
ticketing
school.
guy,
Yeah.
old school ticketing. This train is a real world Adirondack Scenic Railway that's now just known as the Adirondack Railroad that takes you from Utica to Tupper Lake and used to go out to Lake Placid. A beautiful train line that like almost feels like there's some kind of metaphysical aspect to what's happening here.
Interesting.
Like I got like, is Irving the fact that Radar is so old?
Yeah.
You know, like is this a train to an afterlife or to another? Like where is he going?
I don't care what happens to anyone on this show except for Radar. Radar better survive.
Radar, Irving's dog, for those who maybe
Yes,
didn't pick up
Irving's
on
dog better survive.
that. Evan, yeah.
Personally, I just think that, even if he was sincere, I think Lumen's got people waiting on every single stop. Oh. They're ready. They have someone on the train. He's done.
I mean, everyone in that
He's
station
done.
could have been with Lumen
Yeah.
and like could have been placed there, and they probably told them like, make sure he doesn't get on the train, or make sure he does get on the train. They get on the train, and then there's a high-speed train fight in the final episode. That's all it is. That's all 1 hour and 15 minutes is.
I think you're right. It's going to be the opening to Skyfall.
Yes.
No, but Cobell gets in the back of the truck last week because she's concerned that Lumen is watching Sissy's house,
Which
right?
clearly they are.
And if you are Lumen and you have these methods of keeping an eye on people, and you think Irving could be a flight risk,
Yeah.
absolutely, you have people watching where he's moving and all of that kind of stuff. We still don't have an answer on who Irving was calling in that phone booth. I imagine we're not going to see him get whacked off and not get an answer to that
What?
question.
That's
What?
Yep, that's the phrase.
Define
The phrase
whacked
is-
off.
the
You mean
phra-
just whack?
Whack.
No, the phrase is absolutely
Whacked
whacked off. Mobs whacked off hundreds of.
I mean, I'm with John. I thought it was whacked off too. John was saying this. Do we think we see this? Also, a wild theory from people in the chat, I think that's been happening all season, but I want to bring it up now.
The monkeys are the killers.
The monkeys are the killers.
Makes sense.
Could
Oh,
it be, or could, who is, final theories on who Irving is calling, and could it be Mr. Milchick?
Oof.
I don't think Mr. Milchick was flipped at that point, right?
Yeah.
I think we're seeing him slowly maybe flip. But even last week or the week before, we saw him sort of deny Gemma's escape, right? So
Yeah.
he's still doing Lumen stuff that is like quote unquote bad guy stuff. So I don't know. I don't think he's quite there yet.
I still like the theory that maybe it's Petey and he doesn't know he's dead, or maybe it's just a voice mailbox that he leaves messages in,
Could
and there's
very
no
well be the
one
case.
on the other end of the line.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be diabolical if it was Lumen planted, right?
Right. Like it's just a Lumen voicemail box.
Listen to
Like,
Natalie's earpiece.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
never hear it again.
yeah, I mean, it definitely could be. Yeah, it's like it's all of the board are getting the phone calls, and they're like just watching the answering machine right there.
I like the idea that it's Natalie. I have no idea who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking
Yeah. We don't
have
Gabby. We just have no context.
It's just the teenagers from the Whole Mind Collective from season 1.
I mean, Whole Mind Collective seems like the most valid option. It's
yeah.
someone working against Lumen.
Right.
Right, and those are the main. Those are so far. I mean, I think it's got to be someone we have seen already. Like, and in that case, there aren't that many options.
Yeah, Tatiana Monet in the YouTube chat saying John Turturro said a hint about who he was calling was in the first episode. So first episode of something of maybe
Season 2?
season 1, seson 2, who knows?
Dig up
But-
that
Yeah,
quote
yeah,
from
yeah.
Turturro.
yeah.
So let's talk real quick. We go back to that first scene, Eric. Helly or Helena. There's some clue in the subtitles.
Yeah. Jame Eagan calls her, or no, when she speaks in that scene, when she's having breakfast with her dad, the subtitles credit the character as Helly in that moment, not Helena. And then at the end of the episode, when Jame Eagan creepily shows up on the severed floor, he calls her my Helly. So I think what we're seeing there is like when the two of them are together, he is Helly to her. I think that is Helena Eagan, who's swimming laps at the beginning, who's eating the egg. I don't think it's Helly. I don't think it's like an overtime contingency, only because Helly's reaction when she's severed on the severed floor. She goes, "What the fuck?" I think she's never seen this guy before. Who is this creepy old man? If that were Helly eating breakfast with him, that would be some crazy subterfuge that she is playing along with. And I think that is like the 1%er daughter who has this. If it were just normal Helly, she'd just grab that deviled egg. And
It is a truly crazy. I tend to agree.
There is another moment in the episode with Helly and Helena's name, right? When she is talking to Milchick, and Milchick refers to her as Helly R, and she says, "Don't you mean Helly E?" Probably unrelated. We think this is probably just a typo in the subtitles or something like that. But it is interesting that her name has kind of come up a couple of times in an interesting way in this episode. Evan, did someone in the chat have something to say about that?
Some people saying Helly R has seen Jame either from the Perpetuity Wing. I also think the season 1 finale, did they meet in the bathroom?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
At some point.
Yeah.
But also that has been maybe at least a week or two for her, right? And also she knows this man in the context of he's an Eagan and he's on the outside. Why is he here?
Why is he there? Also, I would say that about any dude that was like lurking in the shadows at my office. Like, is Hank over there? What the fuck, Hank?
I mean,
behind you.
He's
They don't
behind
get
me.
visitors, and all that stuff.
Did you guys think that was Milchick in that moment?
I did.
Yeah,
I think that
I
was
did.
the intention, right?
Yeah.
He was so out of
that
focus.
he was
it
gonna
impossible to
catch her
really-
with that map and.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think he meant by saying "you tricked me, my Helly"?
Oof,
Oh,
this is
that's
such a good
really
question.
hard.
I know it's such a. I mean, here's the thing. If we do, I know that some people took the egg dividing in the beginning as more proof that she was pregnant. If that is the case, if she does end up being pregnant, and like maybe this was her sort of motivation all along. Or like that's why she like went back to the severed floor once she was like, oh, my innie kind of wants to bone Mark. I want to know what that's like. I think it probably has something to do with that, or the fact that she boned him on the Ortbo, and then they didn't tell him because there was a whole big thing about like, well, we're not going to tell your dad. We're not going to trouble him with this. So maybe I could see a world where if he's trying to harvest her body for his consciousness, they're giving her daily blood tests or something, and he's like, well, pregnant. You tricked me.
I think you're right to call back the conversation in the conference room where Drummond says like, we're not going to tell Jame about this. That is the only kind of like piece of evidence that I'm thinking about that draws a line to "you've tricked me."
Because he never would have let her go back, right? Like because when she goes back, I'm assuming she said to her dad it was for a different purpose than what it actually is. So that would be the way that she tricked him, is saying like, hey, it's okay, Dad, I'm going back, but like nothing, instead of being like, I'm going back, but like I was drowned, I boned, like lots of stuff happened. So that's the only thing I could think of, is he's like, you tricked me by not telling me this whole truth and the purpose of you going back down into there.
Well, and one thing that like cults like this or fucked up people are so concentrated on tends to be like virginity, the idea of virginity. And if he needs to use Helena's body for some reason or another, I can see him, we speculated that maybe like Helena has not had a lot of love in her life. She's like watching Helly and Mark have their first kiss on the security cam footage. Maybe that is what's bothering him, less so that she's pregnant, but more that she's had sex and and that's a problem for what he's trying to do. Whether it's an actual problem or not, I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. I don't know. Erik, you had a thought?
Yeah, I think there is something. I just think it's weird that he's on the severed floor talking to the innie in this moment. Like, what is he hoping to gain from saying "you tricked me"? He maybe is referring to, like, he knows that the overtime contingency happened. Like, he went up to his daughter Helena and called her a fetid moppet. Like, right? He knows based off of her saying we're being tortured, that when he was in that intimate moment with her, that he's talking to the innie. So he maybe is literally referring to that moment where but he must have also known, based off of what he knows about Severance, that innie would have been terrified in that moment when she was suddenly exposed to the CEO of the company, the outside world.
And that's a good point.
How would that be a trick?
He says this to Helly. not to Helena.
Yeah. So that's why like maybe I kind of like overshot like when I was talking about this in the breakdown. I didn't really get into the last time Audi Jame Eagan talked to any Helena or any Helly, but I just think like when he's like saying you tricked me, I don't know if he's on the severed floor. Could we be talking to Kier Egan's Innie in this moment? Or rather, Jame Egan's Innie, and that Innie is Kier Egan. It's like a version of Kier that is in his head that they've been priming, ready to just complete that circle. And then in this moment, he's like, you tricked me. You're trying to take that spotlight away from me by making you the modern era true form of Kier Egan that walks the earth in the modern age. That's fair. You tricked me. And so I don't know. I think it's just like a version of Kier that maybe is talking to her in that moment. That's why his voice sounds so old and strained in that moment. He doesn't sound like Jame Egan. He sounds, you tricked me. I don't know.
Can I pitch a theory?
Please.
You guys?
Yes.
So a couple, as we get to that scene in the episode, there's a flash frame of the severed, or a montage of flash frames around the severed floor. We see the testing elevator being activated. Is something coming up? Is someone going down? If someone's coming up, could it be a mannequin Jame Eagan that they've been instilling a new consciousness into, like one that's not quite ready for this? But I also want to get your thoughts in general about that shot of the testing floor. What is going on there? Is that Milchick going down to get Gemma? Is that something, the doctor coming up to do something crazy? It's just a quick shot of the elevator going boom,
And that's after a shot of Helly, right? To me,
yeah, it seemed like Helly was walking down there, but then we see that she's not. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was like a literal thing that we were seeing like in the same time, because it was intercutting with the train blasting off into the sunset, and it was intercutting with Mark in the back of the truck. And I just read that as like, okay, well that elevator represents a descent into like a ninth circle of hell in a way. And so Kier or Irving seems to be transitioning to some kind of afterlife. Mark is headed into some kind of doom scenario. So that elevator was just kind of like a metaphoric, symbolic way to signal to the viewer like we're headed into the darkest depths of the night.
Well, and to point a finger at the title of the episode again, Helly is not there during normal hours. She is there after hours, right?
Which they
and
usually
she's
closely
snooping
monitor.
around. So they time everyone's entrances and exits so that they don't run into each other at work. Obviously, Mark, was late and then ended up not showing up at work that day, and that was like a big concern. But now Helly is there after hours. You think, I don't know if her and her father have some kind of like, we carpool, after work, they carpool there. So yeah, maybe there's something in there where he just knows that she's up to no good because she's staying there so late.
It also like the train, the like train with old fashioned people and like the mannequinness of it all also kind of reminds me of Westworld a little bit. Like, because you take the train into Westworld and then everyone that you encounter from the second you get off that train, you are questioning, is this a robot? There's the woman that makes him choose the color of the hat, and he's like, are you fucking Westworld robot? And she's like, doesn't matter. I don't know. Doesn't matter. So it's sort of like there's sort of a little Westworldiness with like Irving's getting out of Westworld by getting on that. But the people coming in get off, and there's like a bunch of people in old-timey costumes and maybe mannequins.
Yeah.
Saying this is season 4 of Westworld, you guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's so interesting because like there are obviously vibes of things like Twilight Zone, Lost, Twin Peaks, Westworld, Altered Carbon. But like if you watched all the seasons of Westworld, it really starts to lose itself. That logic starts to unwind very quickly in season 2. Season 1, it was an excellent mystery box show. Yeah. Season 2, you start having like body swapping, identity, mind spheres.
They're on the outside world somehow.
Yeah, at some point, Valkyrie, what's her name? That actress?
Yes.
Becomes the other actress, the main character.
Yes, Evan Rachel
Wood. And then they're all just like the same person swapped around. They're all like the original villain character who gets like it's you.
Thandie Newton is like super smart,
Yes.
and
it gets so everything equals everything. And that's my code for like everything equals everything, nothing is specific. And it's just like, yeah, you can make a case for anything being anything, and it's just not specific anymore and it's not fun. And so you could, right now, Severance is in that sweet spot where like it could be very, very specific, or it could just be like everything equals everything, every mind is anybody, and it's just like, then it's not fun to theorize about anymore. What I hope is the case is I'm a little worried about mannequins, and if we just see like a human being standing next to a mannequin of that human being, I'll be very disappointed.
Well, we did kind of get some mannequin-esque characters in this season, right?
Yeah. Also, we saw
shadows.
the mannequins of the Eagans in season 1.
We did see
That's why I'm just
Madame Tussauds version
yeah.
of the Eagans.
For a while, this show has been so elegant in that it's only severed consciousnesses that take over for a wedge of the time of the day within someone's singular body. And you don't have multiple bodies. And that's what I like about it. I don't want a scenario where someone could die, but don't worry, their clone can come back. And that's what Westworld became. Like, you kill someone and it doesn't matter because they have a backup of them.
Yeah.
And like that, then it's everything equals everything and it sucks. I hate that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that take. I will say, I think O&D as a department is interesting, right? They are like a 3D printing floor or section of the severed floor. Like, could they be 3D printing people? Who knows? One of the other things that happens in this episode, and specifically like a lot of this happens this season, correct me if I'm wrong here, but in season 1, I think the most of the time we were seeing people switch from Innie to Outie was in an elevator, apart from obviously the overtime contingency. This season we've got the Glasgow block. We see the Ortbo. People are obviously, their Innies potentially outside of the Lumon building. We still don't know if that was truly outside. But and then this cabin, right? That it was also in season 1, but comes into play here. And we see Mark transition from Outie to Innie in the back of a truck, basically. So it doesn't seem like there needs to be like a fence that you pass through or some kind of piece of we don't know. But that also sort of like has implications for Helly's plan to go down to the exports and the testing floor, right? So people in the chat are asking, like, if Helly goes into that elevator, does the severed procedure take effect? Does she now become Helena in that elevator as she ran out of, a doorway in season 1 to try to escape, and then Helena walks her right back in? We get an allusion to that a little bit in this episode where Mark tries to leave, and Devin is like, hey, if you leave, he's just gonna walk right back in.
Yeah, she could either be like Outie Helena, or she could be something completely different. She could be
another
Kier Eagan.
Yeah.
She could be like literally some manufactured, pieced together remnant of Kier Eagan that is just kind of like a weird kind of spiritually like, I bring you love. There could be anything that she could just do an impression of the guy who's playing Jame Eagan. It just kind of floats around the floor like, oh, I wish you would take them raw. And it goes into the Cold Harbor room, goes into the Allentown room, and then has her own kind of trauma that she goes through for each of them.
Yeah, I don't know. Like we've only seen Gemma be severed more than once.
Right.
I think it would be weird to sever Helena Eagan more than once, especially because like if her motivation truly was, well, we want to show them that it's so safe that that America's daughter did it, there would be no point in it. But that's if we take them at their word. If they're doing more insidious things, she could be severed multiple times to try and come up with a. But I think only Gemma might be severed multiple times, and it's specifically to put her in the most uncomfortable positions to evoke this feeling from Mark.
I think that there is a distinction between the show telling the truth and the people in the show telling the truth. And I think that the show tells the truth. Obviously, they withhold some information from us that gets revealed later, and like Cobell being the inventor of the severance procedure, but I don't think that the show has ever showed us something that seems objective and then is a lie.
Yeah.
And so for me, Helena we see it's not Mark that we see in the pilot getting severed, right? It's Helly, if I'm remembering this correctly. She is the guinea pig that we see. We watch her try to escape. We do all this stuff with her. And that tells me that is like an objective truth. And we probably aren't going to be dealing with a bunch of different Helenas or Hellys or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I would think. That's what I would think. I think it makes sense for Gemma to be severed multiple times. I don't know if it makes sense for other characters to be severed multiple times.
If anyone knows, it's Ragabi. Okay. One of the other things that we learned in this episode, very dark moment. Kobelvig tells Mark, hey, if Cold Harbor is completed, Gemma's dead. Very plain English, she is dead. That tells us a couple of things. That Cobell does not consider Gemma to be dead currently. Ragabi in a previous episode had sort of said like, well, the last time I saw her, she was alive. So those are interesting turns of phrase. You know, obviously we think she was dead and is now alive. I don't know. What did you guys make of Cobell saying, you know, once Cold Harbor is finished, she'll be dead? We got that line in episode 7 when Maurer was talking to Gemma about the work you're doing here is going to set Mark free, and you know, she's like, can I be reunited with Mark? And he kind of gives this weird vague answer that seems like a no.
And he also is told like, well, once it's finished, you'll have to let her go.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, we think Cold Harbor is the moment of Gemma's death. Are they going to put Gemma back into that situation? Are they going to drown her to get some kind of horrible emotions that Mark now has to refine?
I mean,
What's
it's
the story
also
here?
possible that they've been artificially keeping her alive somehow. That like during that accident, she didn't actually die, but she was in some sort of deep coma state that would register on the Glasgow scale. Like and they're sort of, you know, they've been keeping her alive by keeping her sort of like hooked up to things in the meantime, and she's living on borrowed time. So like it's not necessarily, oh, she died, we put her body into a mannequin and then she came back. It could be like, oh, she's like every bit of her body was like destroyed, and now we sort of have to like only her brain waves are sort of still living, and once we unplug her from all these equipment, like she can't live basically outside of life support, like, and this whole floor is a version of life support is what I'm saying. In which case, like, there's not, you know, it would sort of be like her, Cobell's mom, you have to sort of unhook her from these machines and then she's gonna die because we can't keep her alive, is another possibility.
Yeah, like it seems like once Cold Harbor is completed, Lumon no longer has a need for her down there, so they're going to dispose of her. Whether or not she's alive or just artificially alive right now, I think they're going to snatch whatever that macro data is and then use it to benefit Helena or Jame.
I think this is an important distinction to make, right? We just did a breakdown of The Last of Us Season 2 trailer, and this is a kind of a similar moral question of like, okay, in your opinion, does the procedure require Gemma's death, or do you think that it sounds like you think maybe Lumon is just going to be done with her and will, in the most fucked up way of saying it, dispose of her because they no longer need her, right? Like there's a distinction there between the procedure is going to cause her death versus we're done and we don't need her anymore, we're going to just kill her.
Yeah, there is a difference. It just depends on how you interpret that After Hours Twilight Zone mannequin reference. I, for now, am choosing to believe that Gemma was a real living human being. There's just something so precious about the Chikai Bardo episode. Yeah. I don't want to believe that that was a puppeted mannequin that was just sent out into the world. I understand that there's something beautiful about like an ex machina ending type approach of, an AI can be self-actualized and can find love. But I just think there's something so tragic about implying that the reason why she couldn't conceive is because she was a mannequin. Like, I just thought there was something so real about that performance in that episode. So I want to believe that that past version of Gemma was at least alive. And then maybe the version of Gemma who's on this additional deeper floor might be a mannequin. And so that's why they're saying, well, if she's done with Cold Harbor, then then they're just going to unplug this mannequin and let it drop dead. That's where I think things currently are pointing right now, just based off the way I'm feeling after the end of episode 9. I think the Gemma from episode that we saw putting on these different outfits might be an artificial version of Gemma that they're just using and trying to like recapture some of Mark's emotions to her.
I can see that working. The outside version that Mark fell in love with, real inside version of Gemma.
Yeah.
Some kind of Lumon creation.
Yeah.
Another Lumon creation was this relationship between Dylan and his wife.
So sad.
Truly like an underratedly sad piece of this episode. He cuts up one of his favorite perks, the finger trap, and turns it into this wedding ring that we see here. Man, how sad that like Dylan's world has opened up so much that like he was his favorite perk at the time was a simple finger trap, and now he's willing to throw that away because he's found something much more meaningful inside of this world. I don't think the story between Dylan and Gretchen, Dylan and Gretchen, is over, even though Audi Dylan has sort of implied that he's okay with Dylan's existence ending. But like, big shout out to Zach Cherry, who came on the Severance podcast, or maybe this was in the little after the episode moment, and sort of said, I've never really been asked to do stuff like this. And I thought he was excellent in this episode. Where do you think that the story between Dylan and Gretchen is going? I mean, it feels like the simple answer is, Gretchen will get a divorce from Audi Dylan to be with Dylan, but you can't be with Dylan. It's impossible.
And we got that great shot, too, of him with the painting, where it looked like his head was getting cut off, too.
Spared by Kier or killed by Kier.
Yeah. I mean, he like Audi Dylan sucks. I'll say it. I don't like that dude. I don't like Audi Dylan. I think he chose like a weird life and is now holding it against his wife that she even said like he reminded me of how you used to be.
Yeah.
And he's like shaming her for it. So I'm not an Audi Dylan fan. I will say that like when he didn't have a job before, he discovered he couldn't get another job, and so he went back. So it's very possible that like if Audi Dylan finds out that Dylan quit, he's gonna be like, fuck that guy, I'm going back to work. Like, sure. I could imagine a world where Audi Dylan doesn't let Dylan quit because he like wants to sort of torture him, but also because he knows he can't get another job.
Yeah, I don't like Audi Dylan that much either, especially since he did not clean out that blender.
Hey man, at least give it a rinse.
Yeah, no rinse, nothing. There were still green cucumbers or whatever there were in there. Zucchini, there was some kind of veggies.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
Bullshit. And he just put it back on there. You didn't put it even in the sink. You could do the bad husband, the dusty dad approach.
Yeah.
You put something dirty in the sink and leave it there.
Also,
didn't do that even.
He says, I took this job to make money for our family. Your wife works.
Yeah.
Don't throw that at her. She's also working.
Yeah, he's not winning any good guy points here.
Yeah, but also I think it's fucked up that she cheated on her.
That's a good question, I guess. Do we feel like it's cheating?
Behavior.
Do we feel like it's cheating?
It is. It's a different identity with different memories. It's different. It is like she knew enough to feel guilty about it, and if she felt guilty about it, then it's cheating. It's emotional cheating and physical cheating. She kissed him for a minute.
I do think she cheated. I do think it's justified.
I don't think any cheating ever is justified.
I think I agree with
Divorce.
I agree with Erik.
Go to couples counseling. Do not cheat.
There is
selfish.
no way Audi Dylan would agree to couples counseling. That dude can't even cut chocolate chip cookies.
Doesn't make it okay to cheat.
He's not pulling his weight around there. She's doing all the emotional labor, and he refuses to acknowledge
it. Can be emotionally valid and emotionally justified to cheat, but it is still cheating, and it is wrong. It is a betrayal to a commitment you made and a vow that you took in marriage.
Evan, let's get your take on the subject.
As we said on Wednesday, cheating ain't eating.
Whoa!
No, it was wrong. It was wrong. No. We'll take it again.
Make it full minute.
Make it seem like I said it. That was really cool, and then it all worked out. And make it all work.
It's better. It's better this way.
Cheating ain't eating. You're right.
Cheating ain't eating.
That's a great way to look at it.
Oh boy, real All right.
The other part of the puzzle, we got a lot of like little vignettes almost in this episode.
Yeah.
We see Ms Huang. Congratulations, you have what it takes.
Oh, look at that little face.
You have what it takes. And now you're getting shipped off. Milchick threatened by Ms Huang. What's going on
he
here?
was clearly over her. I mean, he knew that last episode. He was like, I need to get this bitch out of here.
Definitely wants her gone. I'll say this. I think that sort of removes a lot of the thoughts that people had that this could possibly be Gemma and Mark's daughter or anyone's daughter. Now that they're like sending her away, it feels like that's probably not going to be the case.
Yeah.
Unless anyone has a take that, they think is different.
I completely agree. I'm done with a theory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was a bad theory to begin with.
Yeah, same. I don't know how much I bought into the theory originally anyway, but especially now that we know that that child workers are a thing that Lumon has been doing for forever. So it's not weird that she's here, and there are many others. Yeah, like I don't think that theory is that great anymore.
I do hope that Eustace Huang is like the internal hero by the end. Like, I hope she becomes CEO of Lumon by the end of the series.
She's the Bran Stark of...
She's the Kenneth the Page of it, you know?
I was gonna say she's what's his name from Succession. It's Milchick just holds out his hand and she's like, there we go.
I just hope that we break it out of this dynastic tradition and she can because she has real empathy. Wasn't it funny that like Milchick was like, empathy awaits? Like, and then she apologizes to Dylan for not being a better facilitator. She's the most empathetic manager we've seen at Lumon. We've seen empathy within the Severed team, but like she is the most empathetic non-Severed person we've
she
seen.
cared about Mark's bloody nose. Dylan told her it wasn't her fault, and she genuinely seemed relieved. Yeah,
she
really wanted to play her theremin.
She was so into that.
She had to give it, without question, she crushed her ring toss game.
That's what I wanted to ask, right? Like, here Eagan is the figure in that ring toss game. We've talked about the colors in that game a little bit in past breakdowns and things like that. Is there any additional significance to her bashing Kier with a bust of Jame? I don't know if I'm trying to reach a little bit too much here.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's a reach, but I do think that Milchick was like, because his whole you must eradicate from your like that's the childish folly that he was talking about, was her sitting at her desk and playing that game. So now he was just like, what's gonna dig that knife in as deep as I can, get rid of the one thing that brings you joy at work.
Yeah. I agree. I think that was connected to that idea. He was quoting it as if this is something that everyone who ends their Wintertide Fellowship has to do.
And if so, what would Cobell's sacrifice potentially have to have been?
Her mom's
I don't know.
her mom's skull.
Oh.
Too much?
Take the tube out.
Maybe she had to like burn her diary or something like that, and she didn't burn it. She stuffed it into the bust.
Oh, they made her smash her favorite little microscope, right? She's a little scientist. Right?
Freaking
Junior
nerd.
chemist set.
Yeah.
Mix blue and red together, and they become purple.
So we talked about this being the penultimate episode of this season.
Penultimate.
A lot of times in these penultimate episodes, you see characters like going away, which is a part of television that I don't typically like. I think television is important when you have all of your characters interacting together. But this episode did something similar. Irving obviously leaving. Innie Dylan wants to quit. Outie Dylan wants him gone. Helly potentially getting in trouble with Jame, or maybe getting trapped in the testing floor. We don't know, but it does seem like, Ms Huang leaving. Does seem like when Mark, or if Mark comes back to the Severed floor, he might find that place to be in a similar position he found it in episode 1, where there's a bunch of new characters there that are sort of trying to do the job. Or maybe it'll be sort of like a little ghost town or something like that. But, where it seems like Mark's journey is going to head back to Lumon at some point. How do you think that reaction is going to, or like he's not going to have a lot of friends? Do you think that this is why we're going to get a Milchick switch and he's going to now be sort of on the aggressive against Lumon? Like, who does Mark go to for support when he shows back up at Lumon?
I don't think he's going to Milchick, but I do think there will be a moment I think that they have set up too much with Milchick this season, with the painting and with what Mark said to him about work this episode that made him so emotional that he couldn't even speak. And with that, like, very disappointing moment when he sends Gemma back down the elevator. I think he will have a moment similar to season 1 where he was rushing to the door, and this time he is going to choose not to stop him. I think he is going to have a moment where he sees Mark at the elevator, maybe with Helly, and instead of stopping them, he just turns and walks away. I think he's not gonna be an outright hero. I think he's not gonna aid them. Because I think that ending season 1 with him actively stopping them, I think that this time he will make the choice not to stop them. That is what I think.
Yeah, that makes the most sense for the arc that they've set up this season. Like, he's got to have some moment where he finally rebels.
Yeah.
And then obviously, it's in the thumbnail, but the Devour Feculence moment. Incredible scene of him, railing against Mr. Drummond. And also that moment you highlighted when Mark says work is just work, right? And he's so emotional. I mean, Jamel Tillman really, like, great acting, great scene in this. I like your theory about the kind of inaction there. What is, like, I don't know. What is, like, the best or worst thing Milchick could do in this moment if he were to help the characters or help the Gemma retrieval quest?
Well, I mean, he clearly knows where the exports elevator is, right?
And knows Gemma's down there.
Knows Gemma's down there. He races to make sure that she doesn't get out. If there's a problem with Helly remembering what the specific instructions and directions were to get down there, or if she gets it confiscated by Jame or whatever it is, that can be a place where Milchick steps in and says, like, hey, we got to take 15 left turns, but we'll get there.
I mean, the worst thing he could do is, like, punch out one of the goons, right? Like, if the goons are like, stop her, and he, like, just turns around and decks them, and he's like, I quit, bitch.
Well, and
rides away on his motorcycle.
I've never told a superior to eat shit to their face. I feel like that's
many
grounds
times.
for dismissal. And so it is interesting to me that Milchick is, willing to go there with someone like Drummond, who, seems like he has a lot of power at this company. Obviously, when Cobell was fired, that came from Helena, but Drummond is in the room for that. So I don't know. We still don't really know what Drummond's position is, other than the fact that, in this episode, Milchick sort of says, like, you're my superior or a superior or whatever, but, like, the severed floor or what happens outside of work is your responsibility.
Yeah.
I don't know how to take that moment. I feel like Milchick is really playing with fire when you say that to someone.
You know what it reminded me of is that great moment in Chernobyl where they go to the coal miners, and he's like, I'm the minister of coal mining. You have to get on this bus. And he goes, we're not going anywhere until we know what we're going into. And then they just there's a standoff, and he's like, go ahead, stop firing. You don't have enough bullets for all of us. And then it's like, holy shit, the workers of the world really run the world right now. And I think Milchick understands his position. This is a critical day. They need Cold Harbor to get done. They are 4 percentage points away. And the only way it's going to happen is if the severed floor manager who has a relationship with Mark Scout can continue to grease those wheels. You're not going to get anywhere if Drummond now has to step in.
Do they use this as an excuse to replace Milchick with Cobell?
Like, they offer,
right?
They
They gave Cobell this kind of crappy to-do position that they made up for her. Is this, they reach back out to Cobell, hey, Milchick is gone. We want you to be the severed floor manager now, not knowing that Cobell has gone through this kind of journey and has new emotions toward Lumon.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. I'm very curious to see, even beyond season 2, I'm curious to see if season 3 starts up again with the status quo returned.
We don't know. Evan, any more questions from the chat?
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of them, including finale predictions and things like that. Just one fun fact from a regular chatter, Shri, who said, coolest fact when Milchick says it's not my fault what Mark Scout does when he's not at work, it's yours, it's all monosyllabic.
Ooh.
Oh, excellent.
Good for him. The second sentence of monosyllabic.
Yeah, how's this for short?
Yeah.
We went a little long today. So that's going to be it for us. Make sure to subscribe to the Breakroom channel on YouTube. We only have one more episode of our Severance after show left, so please come back and hang out with us next week. We're so excited for the finale of the show. But if you found us because of our Severance coverage, we're covering Daredevil right now on the show. If that's not your bag and you're more into this kind of television, we're going to be back here in almost exactly a month to do The Last of Us Season 2, which we're equally excited about. It's going to be a blast. So, come find us when The Last of Us comes out, and we'll be talking about that as well. Follow us on Twitch, where we do these videos live. Follow Breakroom NR on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and X. We'll see you later. Thank you guys so much.